Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Pray that you're having an amazing Thursday. You know what it is Thursday. Why do we like it? Because it's right next to Thank God It's Friday. Listen, we're going to take a little deep dive here today. In the news, I know a lot of you are familiar. We've had some issues in regards to comments and things said about the trans community. But this is nothing new. This discussion has been going on and on. I don't want to say a war, but a war of words, a war of ideas, if you will. And the reason came to a culmination when last Tuesday, Dave Chappelle, comedian extraordinaire, released his last Netflix special, 6 of 6, if you will, called The Closer. In The Closer, he questions the idea about the trans community. Now, a lot of people have given him backlash, and a lot of organizations have come out behind him because they said that he's, in some regards, as he says, punching down on the trans community. And I had to take a step back myself and actually be honest with myself in the context of where these comments are coming from. But more importantly, give it a historical understanding, an allegory that I can follow to understand why this argument is not an argument. It's more so a statement of fact that's supposed to lead us into a conversation, lead us into a sense of clarity, if you will, whereby we can actually speak honestly and not through codes and not through letters and things like that, but look at the whole ideology here in America of gender, identity, and race. Dave Chappelle is transparent. He's a friend of mine. I'm a friend of the family, but that's not why I'm standing with him. I'm standing with him, one, as a comedian, of course. We all reserve the right. And people will say that he said some things that were inflammatory, but at the same time, the things he said that may have been inflammatory is not as though they went without explanation. You see, you can say something, but when you explain your position and people don't want to hear it, then we're not a situation where you're punching down. You're dealing with people who have closed their minds, that don't want to hear a discussion, don't want to know that you know things about them that in some regards, it's not embarrassing, but you bring a different discussion to the table when people have investigated you. There's all this talk about cancel culture and things like that. I get that. And I'm going to be honest. People tried to cancel me back in the day. One of the most quiet stories in the world is when we first launched Allah Made Me Funny in Toronto in 2004. I had a joke that somebody considered homophobic in 2004. And what happened, brothers and sisters, is that the person was at the club and he felt offended that I said something. And I said something, honestly, brothers and sisters, that had to do about the fact that back in the 60s, the African Americans launched something called the Civil Rights Movement. My only problem was you had at the time groups that we call gay groups, gay advocacy, that were trying to align themselves with black struggle and black trauma. And I said it can't happen. And I was accused of being, guess what? Homophobic as a Muslim. And the thing that I want people to know is that the fight was picked, but it didn't come to me. I had to read about this in the blogs back in the day, that Preacher Moss was this and he was that and he was these and he was those. Absent from the blog was the fact that you had an opportunity to come up and talk to me. And much the same as Dave Chappelle, I explained my position as a black man, and I explained it clearly and unapologetically. Now, if you cannot take an explanation, brothers and sisters, you're going to have a hard road to hoe in this world. Nobody, brothers and sisters, and let me even put this out in my community. I'm standing with Dave Chappelle because Muslims should hear the argument that he's saying, because the argument is not that far off. And I would say actually is derived from my own religious and prophetic tradition. He did not make this up, brothers and sisters. The idea is that he did his homework in a way that we run away from facts. We allow people to give us emotion, anger, and threats. However, they don't give us facts. The people who talk about the same religion of Islam, they beat us off our position because they make us worry about what's going to be taken from us, as opposed to the arguments that we're going to stand on. So today, brothers and sisters, yes, I'm going to stand with Dave Chappelle, but more importantly, I'm going to give you an explanation that was had in the conversation away from all the controversy. Stories, experiences that happened before this Netflix special. And I'm going to say this because many of us should be standing on the principle of what he said. Though it might have hurt people's feelings, there is a method to the madness. And the method to the madness is you have to listen to the entire argument. This is not a case of gender identity, name that tune. I can name that gender in one note. I can name that gender in two notes. No, you have to listen to the whole song. Therein lies the problem, brothers and sisters. Today we're going to talk about it. It's Preacher Moss on the ShOUT Show. Let's go ahead and get it going.
Atar. The scent of enlightenment. A gentle reminder that air, water, and fire indeed are life-giving essences. Appreciate the intersection of time and luxury. Magnify your essence. Tarife Atar.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is Preacher Moss. Let's get to the subject matter. Why I'm standing with Dave Chappelle. Literally, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say, from a religious standpoint, all the Abrahamic religions should be standing with Dave Chappelle. Let me explain that. Your religious tradition has a very, very set, clear mandate on gender roles and gender identity. Dave Chappelle, in the middle of his comedy special, The Closer, gave everybody a term. And this, I believe, is what really infuriated people in the LGBT community. It was the fact that people can do homework on you. It's out there, brothers and sisters. And I'll tell you what I meant. Dave Chappelle looked up a term in regards to something that happened to J.K. Rowling, who actually wrote all the Harry Potter books. And people tried to cancel her because she used the term, and the term, people said that she was a TERF. TERF, TERF. TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Let me tell you what that means. It means in the world of radical feminism, the idea of gender was the fact that men use gender to oppress women. In a trans thing, that if a man is trans trying to be a woman, he can't literally be a woman because guess what? You're a man. And you're still a man, whether you put on a dress, a lipstick, or have surgery, you're still a man. And essentially, brothers and sisters, this is not even having to be prophetic. Figure it out, brothers and sisters. TERF basically means that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. Clearly, somewhere along the line, people got afraid to say, yes, I am Muslim and Team TERF. Largely upon the fact that the argument is something we've lived with our whole lives. Men don't give birth to babies. Women give birth to babies. Two men can't naturally biologically have a child. Two women can't naturally biologically have a child. This is simple. The math is simple. But somehow, some way, we got into a space, brothers and sisters, where we started to play the victim game. Now, let me explain the victim game very, very carefully. Because some of you, and I have to remind myself, during the George Floyd situation, the protests and social justice, during the George Floyd protest, brothers and sisters, there was an organization called Black Lives Matter. And I caution everybody to go to the Black Lives Matter website and realize and read what their mandates were. And under Black Lives Matter, it was not about Black families. It was definitely not about Black men. It was about Black trans men. And under the scope of Black trans men was anyone else who wanted to be trans, because if you want to get somewhere in society and you want to be a victim and you want to be cool and you want to be part of pop culture, you hang out with Black people. Am I saying Black Lives Matter was an opportunistic organization? Absolutely. And I told you that. They couldn't get Black Lives Matter going to Trayvon Martin shooting. They couldn't even get traction then. But here's the thing that I think we need to look at, brothers and sisters. The game, the hoodwink, is somehow, some way, folks that are saying, listen to me, at the same time, if you are saying something that they don't like, then they can't listen to you. That is the foundational understanding of why I must cancel you. Case in point, brothers and sisters, I did a fastathon some years ago at St. Louis University, obviously in St. Louis. The fastathon was designed to have Muslims cater to non-Muslims who, by chance, were interested in Islam or wanted to know about the holiday of Ramadan. Beautiful. Beautiful. One of the people who was invited was a young man, a young Asian man, who was actually the head of the student gay bi coalition. I'm like, you do your thing. He was invited. Now, brothers and sisters, I did a joke about old men saying something. And it was a funny joke because old men, when they see young guys and they don't jive, that's what he said. And it was something from my experience. I said, man, they're old guys, man, go kill yourself. And then this guy said I was making a joke about suicide. I was mocking suicide. I said I wasn't mocking suicide. But what happened is what you have to pay attention to. So this whole thing with Dave Chappelle should not be any kind of a shock. On the way to the airport, the Muslims who had invited me were trying to position me to call this man up and apologize to him that somehow this comment was widespread against the gay community and the bi community and the LGBT community. The joke had nothing to do with that. However, the inference was you kind of offended him, and to avoid attack from all the other groups, you should apologize. I say for being a Muslim, for being black and being right, hell no. What I learned, brothers and sisters, is actually what Dave Chappelle said he showed on his show. That you need to know that people have names for you as folks who just basically identify with their own gender. I'm a man, my father was a man, my mom was a mother, she's a woman. We identify with that. But I think you need to know that this thing has been long going and it's been opportunistic. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not going to talk about people's intentions because I don't know all these people. But I will say this. Terms have been put on. I saw something on CNN with Mr. Don Lemon on CNN, and they were talking about Dave Chappelle. And he fell back, and there was an advocate, Gay Alliance advocate, if you will, who was speaking about Dave Chappelle, how they felt hurt and offended, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he threw something out, a term I've heard before, cissexual. Cissexual is meant to define people who are the opposite of trans. 1994, this word came out. Some of you are hearing it for the first time, cissexual or cis or he cis. Wait a minute. You're having conversations about me and my own sexuality in your own enclaves, and all of a sudden, I don't know about it, but when I find out about it and I say something, now you're upset. I won't even point to the sheer hypocrisy that we're talking about. That collectives in the LGBT community, they have jokes for people, for you men who like women and for you women who like men and having families the good old-fashioned way. There are people out there that have names for you. Oh, he's a cis. Oh, she's a cis. That somehow my existence, brothers and sisters, is an affront to the trans existence of a person I don't know. It's absolutely ludicrous. You can't make the argument. You can't make the argument. And in Dave Chappelle's case, he didn't have to make the argument because you wouldn't get it. Therefore, he made the joke. He made the joke. And he made it accessible, brothers and sisters. And let me tell you something. All jokes aren't great jokes. Some jokes just lay there. Some jokes are meant for you to wake up and be aware of your surroundings, to look at your own hypocrisy, to look at your own arrogance, and to look at your own pride. And that's what he did. And that's what good comedy does. And that's what real religion does. It calls us all on the carpet of humanity and go, who created you? These terms like cis and trans and LGBTQ, I remember, brothers and sisters, and I was saying this earlier to a family member. I remember 20 years ago, there was no LGBTQ. I remember the arguments and the test arguments of, I want to love who I can love. Or I want to love who I want to love. Love who you want to love. Does not mean that I have to accept it. I can acknowledge it. I don't have to accept it. Guess what? There are people, a man wants a woman and the family doesn't accept them. It happens across the board as a possibility to human. It doesn't matter if it's same sex. This is a part of life. And part and parcel of this thing is, brothers and sisters, why are we scared? Why are we so beholden to the fact that, oh, we could be canceled? What does cancel mean, brothers and sisters? Dave Chappelle laughed all the way to the bank with his first 5 specials. He laughed all the way to the bank, and I'm going to tell you why I think he did. Because he left breadcrumbs along the way. And he reminds us, brothers and sisters, that this is so much bigger than the LGBT community. This is about the industry. This is about society. This is about when you're right, you're right, you're wrong, and the ability to recognize the difference between the two. This is about humility. In some regards, there's some people go, oh, you know what, that last special, it wasn't that good, it wasn't that. I understand. But I also understand this, that he sacrificed something to bring a message. Oftentimes that doesn't happen in comedy. Comedy is I need the laughs right here, right now. And if you get a message, cool. He's at the level, brothers and sisters. What are you going to do? You're going to take his money back? All those checks that Netflix have cleared. His comedy shows will always bring out the people he wants. And they'll also bring out the people he doesn't want. And the argument that he's going to make every time is something that he said at the end of the special. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you are living, you are part and parcel going through a human experience. And if at any time I think my human experience is more relevant than yours, then we have a problem. We have a failure to communicate. Now, I don't want to sit up here and tell you, I'm not bashing the LGBT community, but be honest. I'll be honest. That's not how I live. That's not how I grew up. And if that's how people live and that's how they grow up, that's your business. That's your business. We can all coexist. Coexist. But at the same point, though, you cannot leverage the ideology that I am a victim to demand that somehow I step off my own positions. I somehow don't support my own core values and beliefs. Somehow my credo statements don't make any sense because I have to make you happy. And that, brothers and sisters, is not a modality for LGBTQ. That is a modality for white supremacy. We're going to think on that. We have some people in the queue. Let's go ahead and bring them on. Satana, who we got today? I know we got Sister Ree. Hey, how you doing, Sister Ree? I hope you're doing well. Peace and blessing to you and your family. Give a big shout out and a big hug to my man. Oh my gosh. I forgot your husband's name. But let's go to Juwan. Your husband come back to me. I don't know how I forgot his name. I'm getting forgetful. She's laughing right now at me. You go ahead and laugh. I'm gonna figure out and call his name. I don't know how I forgot it. Okay, next up, got Mama Son, Mary Moss. She's saying, hello, SOS family. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mom. Appreciate your support. And of course, your guidance. My mom didn't grow up with cis or LGBTQ. She didn't do that. Mom was Team Turf, which is a man and a woman is a woman, and we don't struggle with that idea. Thanks for coming on the show. Next up, why Alaikum Assalam Rahmatullah Barakatuh, Brother Eric. Good to see you on the show, man. I hope you 2 days in a row, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on the show and supporting us. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Next up, my main man, all tough for she, Mr. 6 o'clock, all the way from Toronto, our Canadian ambassador to the show. AR, good to see you on the show, man. We appreciate you. Anybody has any comments, I'm just putting this out there. You can feel free to jump in. I've done my spiel, and I'm going to wrap up, but I'm just trying to put it out here, brothers and sisters, because people are going to ask me, why do you support him? This is why I support him. And it's not so much I support David Chappelle. I support the truth that's in me. I support the truth that I grew up with. So it's important. Altaf, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, brother, thank you so much for coming on the show. Love to hear your comments. Next up, Sister Ika, all the way from Indonesia, Depak, Indonesia. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Ika, all right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Next up, Moo Jahid, Team Turf. What's up, Moo? Love you, man. Moo's my homie. Moo's my homie from Detroit. Also, Omar Regan's brother. Team Turf. You know what I'm talking about, brother. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Moo. We got to connect, man. It's been way too long since we've been on tour. We just need to connect. Appreciate you, brother. Next up, Amasha, my main man, Shahid. His message was uniquely about race relations in America. Yes, from the first joke to the last statement, the LGBT comments were a vehicle to discuss race. Also, his use of the N-word is out of a lie. It's out of a life of black people. It's out of a life of black people. I think I'm reading it wrong, possibly. But yeah. He says this, brothers and sisters, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna claim because I've seen I saw most of what was in the closer going to his shows when he was traveling around the country. I see him build the act. That's the other thing. I seen him build the act. So there's intentionality when you watch people build the acts. And he says it very clearly. This is the argument. And I find that there is provocation, and people find a lot of gravitas in placing themselves in the mainstream of white supremacy to get, for lack of a better word, attention. To get attention, to move the sticks of however they see justice or equality or access. I see that all the time. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Aki Team Turf spelling error. Should have been Black Love. That's right. Spell check. I've been a victim too. Ahmed, I've been a victim too. All right. Next up, Malik Aziz. I believe you are new to the show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. He said, I turned the Netflix garbage off after the 25th N-word came out of his mouth. Black self-hatred is a crisis. Now, I'm going to say this to brother Malik Aziz. I do have a problem with the N-word. And I have talked to him about that. There's a Iconoclast series. I don't know if you can ever find it, but he actually interviewed Maya Angelou, and they had that conversation about the N-word. Very, very revealing, because Maya Angelou is like, she's the GOAT. Okay, she's the GOAT, and she explained to him the pain. Yeah, I can see that, brother Malik. Today I'm just talking about Team Turf right now, but I do agree with you. Jawad Kawaja, wa alaikum assalam. My brother, we need more live Preacher Mark shows. Thank you, brother. We're trying to get there. Much peace to you. Jawad is my main man. He's like a day one dude. Always looking out for me. Peace and blessings to your family, Jawad. Next up, Derek. I got it. I'm sorry. I'm in love with this headache, Derek. Why did you put that up, Rhea? I was so close. I had Derek on my mind. Derek, I'm sorry, bro. I'm going through a lot of stuff, so forgive me, man. But you know what I'm saying. Every once in a while, you just blow one. I've done that. I'm at that age now. I should get a pass. I should get a pass that I forget things. Thank you. Shahid Ali. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shahid, what's up, my brother? From down south. Peace and blessings to you and your family, man. Hope you're doing well. I think you know what I'm saying, Team Turf. I've been trying to lay out the case here for folks. And I'm going to say this too. To my Muslim comedy community. I ain't heard a word from the Muslim comedy community. Zero. And it's wrong. You talking about a mouse sneezing in the cotton, that kind of quiet. I ain't heard nothing. And we're supposed to stand up and support this brother when he is right. Now, Malik Aziz talking about the N-word, another argument. Absolutely. But for this one, brothers and sisters, it's a fundamental argument. We're living it, particularly as Muslims in America, Muslims around the world. This is a fundamental argument. And it's clear. It's been had. Have you ever had somebody ask you the answer to a question and you gave them the answer and they kept asking you the question over again in the hopes that you're going to somehow change your answer? Guess what? 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. A man and a woman can have children. A man and a man cannot. Team Turf done. Next up. Oh, I'm sorry. We almost forgot our consultant producer, Sister Satana, working the back, dealing with me and my memory loss and things like that. I appreciate you, Sister Satana. And Sister Satana wants to explain and ask people to come back to the show so we're not canceled. This is Monday to Thursday. We'll be back on the air on Monday. We'll be running shows like Why Stand with Dave Chappelle, John Gruden. We'll be playing them back. And if social media and Facebook will have us.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. We just got back from hiatus and we're about to get canceled.
There you go.
This is day 4. We're about to get canceled.
I'm going out on what I believe, Sister Satana. If I'm going to get canceled, you go out on what you believe.
Go out well.
I'll go out on do live shows or cut people's grass. I don't give a darn. But what we can do is be pumped off of the things we believe. You know, and
What is
I,
Bilal
I I'm,
talking about?
I'm losing. Bilal,
He
oh,
said, "Why are you not my friend?" Or no, Bilal, I'm gonna.
your Facebook friend.
Waalaikum
Right,
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bilal
Bilal.
Mustafa International. How are you doing?
That's the thing. That's the whole thing. We're all
Yeah.
Sultana Team Turf or no?
So you know what I put up here? I don't think I put a comment up here. Turf equals turf. So you know it's always a word play. So you know a lot of things are not.
Okay,
They
all
are very strategic, right? When
right.
there are words that are put out there, right? Because words again make people, right? Words make people, and you can define
Absolutely.
people. You can define situations. And so then, as you were talking about turf, I'm like, well, the word turf, as opposed to not the grass turf, but the turf as in like gang turf, right? Like this is
Mm.
my ownership, this is my street. And so I think there's some wordplay around turf and turf. So that's
I
just
just feel like when you get an agenda issue, it's
yeah.
like Bloods and the Crips. It's like, hey
How
man,
about that?
you can
Yeah.
rock blue, you can rock red, but here's the deal: you're all in the same conditions. You're still dealing with the same conditions.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're dealing with, you know, these gangs in inner city. You're still dealing with the same deals. Yeah,
Mm,
you're all in the same condition.
yeah.
So and
Yeah. Your
it's
mom says, it's simple. I respect your choice, but your choice should not inhibit my freedom of choice. And that's what everyone is asking for, right? Their freedom of choice. And so, I think this is what this community is saying, that people are inhibiting their freedom of choice, but at the same time, in some instances, they're inhibiting other people's freedom of choice, right?
well, I mean, it's the
So I
same
think that's
argument.
discussion. Yeah.
It's the same argument about vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same argument about vaccines. It's like, hey, I understand your right to not take a vaccine.
Mm.
However, when you come into a public area, I have a right to be safe.
Yeah. Not die.
I
Yeah.
have a right to not die from your decision. That's it.
So wear a mask,
Hey, hey,
at least.
don't be on a vaccine. Hey, look, take everybody that don't want to be on a vaccine, put them on a bus, drive them out to a remote area like North Dakota, South Dakota, and just leave them and just live there.
That's a
You know,
whole nother discussion. I'm sure it's going to come to that, but
the
we're going to
first
move back. We're going to move back to this.
people are gonna be like, "Where's that vaccine?" That's what they're
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Right here.
Bilal said he's actually in H Town. He's hanging out with you.
All right, all right, all right.
Yeah,
So
yes,
we'll get to
he
that
has a
then.
comment here. Yeah,
But look, I want to make sure
right.
that we're real clear before we get out. So this is not bashing LGBTQ. That's not what it is. If we're going to make the argument about what we believe in, you're going to make your argument, but you got to allow me to make my argument. Okay? You got to allow me to bring my personal experiences, my religious beliefs, and all these mores that I grew up with, and not try to treat them as counterfactual. Like if you didn't see it, they didn't exist. Okay? Like I said, I had my beef with Black Lives Matter because it was anti-black family, it was anti-black male, it was actually black revolutionary movements in the United States. It didn't want to credit any of them because it wasn't inclusive of the black trans community going all the way back to the Nation of Islam. Damn it, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I won't let you. You know why? Because I wouldn't do it myself. So as we wrap up here, brothers and sisters, please, please, please understand clearly that we all have beliefs. We all have understanding and experiences that bring us to a certain point. I'm standing with Dave Chappelle because he said it at the end of his special. I'm having a human experience. Life is a human experience. Death is a human experience. Children are a human experience. Marriage, divorce, sickness, they're all human experiences. And we have to sit by and let them happen. But the independent situations that also remarkably bear out our decisions, choices. So if you're going to argue to have a choice, it can't be at the expense of me not being able to argue and have a choice. And you can't guilt me away from things that I believe. I would never guilt you away from things. If someone treated you badly, that was someone who treated you badly. And believe me, I'm clear about the whole aspect of homophobia and things like that, just like Islamophobia. Because you have people who have done this repeatedly for people who are different or had different ideas. So don't shame me. If Dave Chappelle says I'm Team Turf, it's because he looked it up. And don't be upset that he took a term that's usually used by trans activists. He said what you say in private. And he took a term that was normally said in private. He looked at it and he said, hey, here's your term. That's me. That's me. Yes, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And I don't struggle with the idea at all. Why should you? That's our show, brothers and sisters. It's Preacher Moss. Let's go ahead and get to our sponsors. Oh, we got Jawad. Another issue is that the narrative is being adopted by a lot of young people. It's really sad that we have to push back. We have no pushback that is popular in society. How the heck did that happen? We let it. We substituted logic with emotion. So when you substitute logic with emotion, everybody can be right. Bilal says we can't segregate people according to who's vaccinated or not. We shouldn't allow ourselves to get caught up in the battle of the sexes in the bigger picture. Let's not allow the LGBT community to take us away from our focus and goal as people in America. Now, I don't have time to go into the strategy of this whole thing because I might be here till Monday going through the whole strategy. But I want to make sure that, inshallah, I made it clear that my choice is guided by my choices. So I choose to believe these things and I find value with them. You choose to believe your things because you find value in them. Don't devalue what I believe, and I can't devalue what you believe. Peace will coexist. So let's go ahead and get to our sponsors. We'll give a shout out to our sponsor, www.befinancialindependent.com. Again, that's befinancialindependent.com. You can call 888-496-6845. Again, that's 888-496-6845. Go to that website, brothers and sisters. Like Miss Cade says, if your money is sitting in the bank, you just losing money. And she said, hey, like my man said on the Breakfast Club, if I work hard for my dollar, I want to know how I can make my dollar work hard for me. All right. Next up, we also want to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, that's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. I think registration is still open for the second semester. You want to get on that right away. Brothers and sisters, it is a wonderful experience. I'm saying it. Yes, I went through the process. Yes, Preacher Moss got a master's in Islamic education. Don't worry, I won't be teaching your children. It's all good. But go to banonline.org. Again, that's banonline.org. Brothers and sisters, I am out of here. Team Turf, hit it, Satana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, team, we've come to the end of yet another show. And I have to say I had a good time, and I hope that you had a good time as well. Listen, at this part of the show, we have no more show. I could literally sing a song saying we have no more show. However, to spare all of us that embarrassment and chaos, I'm just going to say, please join us tomorrow here on the Shout Out Show, Monday through Thursdays, and every first Saturday, we do our Saturday Spotlight. Here we are again, 5 to 5:30 on the Central Time. And of course, we're going to do our rebroadcast at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock p.m. And of course, that would be 6 o'clock on the West Coast. So, time for you to go because it's time for me to go. I think I will do that song. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to the show. That's all the lyrics I wrote. But you get the idea. See you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum. Shout out.